Hi everybody, Keren here from TuppenceColoured.co.uk. Thank you very much for joining me, and this is what I've been making today. Stay with me and I will show you how I made it. For the box I'm using a crumb cake card and pumpkin pie, and I'm using the corrugated dynamic embossing folder. I'm going to use the sentiment from the Treat Time stamps, and I've got pumpkin pie, crumb cake and soft suede inks. I'm going to cut the box out using the takeout thinlets, and for the leaves and the that go around the tag, I've got watercolour card. Couldn't think what it was called for a moment. I'm going to use the seasonal layers thinlets. All right. I'm going to also use the braided linen trim, and the other things that I'm going to use on the tag, I'm going to use some of my brushes. So I've got yellow, red, gamboge and moss green, and I'm also going to use just a couple of little spots of the shimmer ink. So I've got the Vegas gold and bright copper. And I am back from the big shot with my pieces all die cut out. So my two box pieces are going to fit together like that, and the pumpkin pie panels are going to go on top of them thusly. But you've probably noticed that this panel and this panel aren't the same size, and my pumpkin pie will fit neatly onto that one, but on that one it is just a little bit too big. It's kind of flush with the edge, and when you bring the edge around like that, it doesn't look right. So I'm going to adjust the size of one of the panels, and the way I'm going to do it is that I am going to line it up onto my skinny side panel, just like that, and I'm going to keep them held together, pop it down on to my silicone mat, and I'm just going to take a pencil and draw along that line, and then I'm going to cut that out just like that. And I've already done one, so I shall try the two together. This one just does need to be a teeny tiny little bit skinnier. Okay. And now that is nice on my box with a nice border all around it. Alright, so next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take my liquid adhesive, which has gone walkie. Here it is. And I'm going to glue the edges together. And actually I probably should have burnished the folds first, but it's not going to be that big of a problem to do it once it's all put together. And just make sure you haven't flipped one over upside down. And I'm going to set that on one side for the adhesive to set, and then I'm going to go back over to the big shot with these pieces and my corrugated embossing folder. So I'm going to place these into the folder just like that, and when I run this through the big shot, the sandwich is the platform with no tabs, no shims, no nothing, just the platform, and only one cutting plate on top, because this is a dynamic embossing folder, which means that it is too thick to go through if you use two cutting plates, so you only want one. So I'm going to go over and do that, and I will be back. Before I move on to the next step, I've just been sponging the edges of my pumpkin pie pieces, and what I've done, I've taken a little bit of pumpkin pie ink on, and this is just an eyeshadow applicator, and I've put a little kind of reservoir of it there on my silicone mat, and I'm just very lightly just sponging the edges, just to give it a little bit of, you know, a little bit of depth, a little bit of thickness and richness to the card. Okay. Alright, and then I'm going to put these into my corrugated embossing folder, and I can put all 4 of them in at once, which is a big time saver. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure that my corrugations are nice and straight, because I don't want a wobbly pumpkin. And close that down. Right, now the sandwich for this plate, because it is a dynamic one, is your standard platform. If you've got one of the ones with the tabs, you open it up so there are no tabs, no shims, no nothing. Then your embossing folder, and then your cutting plate. You don't need 2 cutting plates, because if you do, it will be too thick. This is a dynamic embossing folder, and therefore it is thicker than a normal one. So I'm going to take this over to the Big Shot, and I'm going to emboss these, and I will be back. Here they are. I love this this corrugated embossing folder, I really do. Right, so here now is my pumpkin box, the base of my box, and I'm just going to put some liquid adhesive, and I'm making sure I get it on the bits that are sticking up on this side. Oh, do you know what? Talking and crafting at the same time. You know your limitations, Keren. Okay. And then that now it's going to sit on there. And I'm doing this now because it is always easier to decorate a 3D item when it's as flat as it possibly can be. Okay, because you're just making trouble for yourself if you wait until it's in its fully finished form. Just little spots of liquid adhesive. And just trying to line things up so that I have continuity around the box. And again, this is why liquid adhesive is so useful, because you have that little bit of thinking time with it. Okay, so once again, I am going to set this on one side for the liquid adhesive to set. So I decided to sponge the box itself with crumb cake ink so that it looked nice and grungy. And I'm going to do one more thing before I stick it together. And that is, I'm going to bring these 2 pieces so that they're in the position that they will be when the box is assembled. And I've got a 1/8 of an inch handheld hole punch here. And I'm going to use both hands because I'm going through 2 layers of cards. And I'm going to punch out a little hole, and that will enable me to run my thread through there to close the box up. And it's going to be much easier to do it at this stage than it is later on in the proceedings. So, small bead of my liquid adhesive, and of course you could use a tape for this, or if you've still got some fast fuse lying around, you could use that. Wouldn't recommend snail because it's just a little bit too heavy for that. Okay, so I'm bringing those 2 edges together, whoops, and those 2 edges, and there, and I just want to tuck that one inside there. Okay, and there we go. coming back and just gently pressing down where I need the adhesive to be sticking. So that's going to need a few minutes to set up properly. So while that's happening, I shall go away and give some thought about how I'm going to decorate this little box. In this paper cup, I've got a mixture of PVA and water. So it's ordinary, the stuff that you give the children to use. Craft PVA, doesn't have to be the expensive stuff at all. And I'm just mixing it up so that it's sort of a runny consistency. Not sure how well you can see that, but it's sort of a bit like single cream or light cream. I've got a length of the braided linen trim, and I'm just going to dunk that into my PVA and water mix. And I've got quite a lot of mix in here, but that's okay, because when I finish I can just cover it and it will keep for quite a while, and I can use this in all sorts of projects. For example, I can use it to seal my MDF baubles I've recently bought. Okay, so that's nice and soaked, and I am, as you can see, I am wearing gloves because this is messy and I've protected my surface. So what I have here, it's just a piece of wood dowel. Doesn't have to be a piece of wood dowel. Knitting needle will do fine, pencil will do fine, anything that's you know, kind of smooth and round. And I've covered it with cling film, and I'm just going to clip one end of my well soaked trim onto my dowel, and actually let's change that a little bit. See, I'm wearing gloves in an attempt to keep my hands clean, but I really am not used to working in gloves. Okay, that'll do. And now I'm just winding the soaked linen trim around. Can you see that if I move it away from the light a little bit? Is that better? I'm just rounding round and round and round, and I'm keeping them quite close together. And I've got some lumpy bits there, and I'm not really worrying about that because these are going to be tendrils, and I am going to kind of straighten them out a bit anyway, kind of pull them out. And there we go. So I've got all the way to the bottom. I've got another binder clip here. Just going to put that to hold it, and actually I've just got a bit more here that I can still wind on. Nearly missed that. And there we go. Now I'm going to clip it, hold it in place, try not to catch the edge of my glove. That'll do nicely. And I have a bottle here somewhere. What have I done with that? Basically, I'm going to stand this upright in a bottle, and I'm going to leave it overnight for all of the adhesive to dry. So I'm just going to put it on one side, and I'm not going to touch it until tomorrow. So see you then. And that's the result. Left overnight to dry, and then I've pulled it away from the cling film and just teased it out a little bit, because I don't want something that's like a spring. I want something that's more like a tendril. So I'm just going to pull that out the way I want it. And this is the other thing that I've been playing with. This started off life as a piece of white watercolour paper, and I've been playing with my brushos, so I got it good and wet, and then I sprinkled on some red, some yellow and some gamboge, a few drops of shimmer paint here and there, and it was very, very wet at this stage. It was, you know, the water was running off it, dried it with my heat tool about halfway, and then added in some of the moss green, a little bit more water, left it to dry, and then I die cut all of my leaves out of it. So I've got many more leaves than I'm going to need for my project today, but that doesn't matter because I will pop them into a little plastic bag and I will bring them out on other projects. I've stamped my sentiment onto a piece of crumb cake and I've die cut it out with one of the dies that came with the little box, and now I'm going to put this together. So I have a 1/8 of an inch handheld circle punch. So I'm going to pop that there, and before I go any further I'm going to put my my braided linen trim through. So I'm going to go from the front to the back and just give myself a good length. A bit more than that. You know, that'll do. Cut that off. Would probably been easier if I'd cut it off before I started doing this, but you know me. Okay, so now I can go ahead and I can put whatever I want around the back of that, and that's already in place. That's going to make my life a wee bit easier. So let's have plenty of adhesive of various kinds. So I have liquid adhesive, and let's put my silicone mat down to protect my table surface. And this is going to need need to be recovered soon. And I've come to the end of this roll of wallpaper, so it's going to have a different pattern. So yeah, stay tuned. It's going to be exciting. Okay, so I'm going to pull that little stalk bit off because I don't want it. It's just going to get in the way. And which of these is the prettiest? Okay, so now do you see why I put the cord through the loop first? And should we go mad and have a third one? I think so. Why not? Why not indeed? Okay. And now let's get the tendrils in there. I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to try it with wet glue, but this may be a hot glue gun job. We shall see. Should be okay. Just needs time to dry and to hold it. Put a bit of tape over the top of it just to secure it while it dries. There we go. Let's have a look how that's looking. That's rather pretty, don't you think? And we'll use some of the smaller ones just around the edge here. And I don't really have much in the way of a plan for these. I'm just kind of putting them in place where I think they look good. And I like that one a bit better when it's there. there. So that's what we'll do. And the fan on my computer is having a real fun time at the moment. And, I don't know why it's doing it, just every now and again it does. It's not running that hot. It just likes to join in every now and again. Okay, so do I want another one? Kind of feel that I do, and I kind of feel that I don't. Yeah, we'll just have a little bit right there. Okay, so I think this is time to step away from the tag and let the glue set. So now I'm ready to finish this off, and I'm going to put just a little bit of liquid adhesive on each end of my length of braided linen trim, and I'm just going to rub it in with my fingers. And this is going to do two things. It's going to stop the trim from fraying, but it's also going to give it a nice sharp point so that it makes it easy to do this. Okay. And I'm also going to tie that on because I want to incorporate it into the bow. I'll trim those ends off in a moment. I'm just going to tie a nice little bow onto the top of the box. Cut that a little bit short, but never mind, not to worry, we can work with it, that's okay. And now I can bring my scissors and I can chop those little ends away. And the same thing on the tag. I just tied a knot a couple of inches up, get rid of the excess, and I'm going to call that finished. There it is, that is the finished project. I did do one more thing, which was I cut a slit in that top leaf so that the cord could pass through it more easily. It was a little bit of a fiddle, so it would have been easier if I thought about doing it before I put the box together, but there you go, you live and learn. And that is it for today. I do hope that you've enjoyed this project. I do thank you very, very much for staying with me to the bitter end, and I'd be absolutely thrilled if you came back and saw me again sometime soon. But for now, once again, thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.